Welcome. Thank you for coming in this lovely weather. So, really pleased to see everybody here. So my name is Scully, and I'm the hematologist here at the Health Sciences. And we've changed the name of this organisation to NLBCI, so Newfoundland and Labrador Blood Clotting and Immune Disorders Education Project. We did have thrombosis in there, and that's kind of a difficult word to say, so we decided to switch that. And so this is a project from the Faculty of Medicine, and our goal is to be an umbrella group for education around disorders of the blood, clotting and immune systems. So we're a group of physicians and researchers who teach and work at the medical school and at the health sciences centres, and we're helped a lot by our patients and their family members who have joined with us to start this program. And I have to thank Erin Wiseman, who's a grad student who's been working very hard to coordinate this event. So if you're interested in this topic, please sign up and join us and come to other events. And our next event will be December the 18th here from 5 to 8, and we're going to be having some fun with some carol singing. So you're welcome then. So what is this about? Well, we know that patient advocacy and education can be very helpful, and there's a lot of research that shows that when patients and their caregivers have a lot of support, they do better, they have a better outcome. And when any of us are ill, when life gets hard, we need all kinds of support. We need physical support, emotional support, financial support. But this support must be informed and in tune with our needs. Personally, the phrase I hate to hear is take one day at a time. It's always bad. People say that. So from my own personal experience, there is absolutely nothing, when you're having a tough time or you're going through something, there's absolutely nothing like meeting another person who's been along that route, and they're much better able to tell you what you need and encourage you. Why an umbrella group? Well, there are many different organizations formed in Canada and worldwide to support individuals living with illnesses or conditions which affect their blood, their clotting, or their immune system. And so far, only 3 have actually become established here in our province. So this is by no means a comprehensive list, but this is just some of the organizations involved. And the 3 that have a chapter here in our province are Candlelighters, who work with children with leukemia and cancers, and the Canadian Haemophilia Society, which is a fantastic branch here in Newfoundland, and the Myeloma Foundation of Canada, which has started in the last 3 years and is doing very good work. But a lot of the other organizations have not made it across the Atlantic, because often patient groups are, there's a lot of volunteer activity. People often drive to events, and that's a bit more difficult for us. So again, peer support. We know that any of us who've been through any sort of illness and grief know, as I said, there's nothing like the comfort one gets from meeting with another person who's had these experiences and are sensitive to what you're experiencing. And so ideally, we are hoping out of this, we will be able to have sort of develop a group of patients who are willing to be peer support for other people. And in terms of education, we also know that patients who are educated, particularly those who are educated about their medications, do better. It's safer when you know what your medications are, when you know what the potential side effects are, and know when to look for help. So patients who are well educated, who understand their condition and their choices, and are better positioned to make good choices about treatment. Another big issue for all of us is that a lot of new treatments that are coming along are incredibly expensive. And many of us are aging and are going to need a lot of health care. So we really have to look carefully about what we're doing, how we're spending money, and can we do that better. So there is a big project going on called Choosing Wisely in Canada, and it's mirrored from a US project, Choosing Wisely, which started in 2012. So this means that groups of physicians in different areas have got together, and what often happens is we start something that seems like a great idea, and it becomes very widespread. When you're old like me, there's a lot of things I've taught that I now have to go back and say, sorry, we've changed our mind. You know, this is, now we realize that this idea or this treatment that we thought would be really helpful is really not all that good. So it is important for us to evaluate things we're doing which perhaps are not all that helpful. And that's what Choosing Wisely is around, and it's about also trying to give lots of information to patients about their choices. Okay, so enough of all that. We're here tonight to talk about iron deficiency, and that's because many of us, Dr. Costello and I, get a lot of referrals for people who are iron deficient, and so does Dr. Fardy. So we've got together to try to understand and improve care of patients who are iron deficient. And so I want to thank our speakers tonight. Heather Whalen is a patient advocate, and a really good one, so she's going to tell us a bit about her story to get us interested. And Kelley Maloney, with help from her colleague Andrea Shepherd, is one of our dietitians. She's going to talk about what's very important about the diet. My colleague Dr. Fardy is a real expert on this topic. He's a professor in gastroenterology here at the medical school. And my colleague Dr. Costello is a hematologist with a lot of interest. And Tom Dunn, I think, is here, but I'm not sure if he's going to speak because we may not have enough time, but he's one of the medical students who's been doing really good work with me on this topic. So I want to thank Erin again and the staff of the medical school. And I also want to thank Dr. Kemra, who's here, who's a co-founder of this project with me, and Dr. Manny Varajani, and Charlie Cheeseman, who's done lots of work and who took these beautiful photographs I have in my talk. Ken Noseworthy and Holly King. So thank you very much, and now I'm going to welcome Heather.
Hello. Hi. I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of how this all came about. Growing up, I grew up with iron deficiency. I didn't realize that I was a hemophiliac until after I had children, so it all made sense after this. So growing up through, I always had a lot of nosebleeds. I had a lot of problems with my periods monthly. I'd be very sick, a lot of bruising, and suffered from a lot of tiredness. Like every month my mom was like, yeah, we got to get out of bed and go to school, and just didn't understand what was going on. So one day I went to the doctor and he said, yeah, her iron's a little bit low, so we'll put her on iron pills. But it never ever really worked for me. Like it caused ulcers in my stomach. I never really absorbed it. So I got married at the age of 22 with my husband here in Mark, and we had our first little fella, Liam. And I was very sick throughout that whole pregnancy. And around 30 weeks, they realized that Liam wasn't thriving. So during the pregnancy, we decided to deliver him at 31 weeks. He came out breathing on his own, and everything seemed fine, but everything wasn't fine for me. I woke up, I can't tell you, maybe a week later in ICU. I hemorrhaged on Liam, and to the point of I had to have embolization done where they went in and cauterized all the vessels to my uterus, and that didn't work. And so then they went back in a couple hours later and did the same thing to all the main arteries, and were able to save my uterus. Because at the time I was 23 years old, so they were concerned about me having other children, and we weren't really concerned about Liam. I had Liam home. He stayed in hospital probably about 5 weeks, and I got him home, and he wasn't acting like a newborn. I knew he was premature, but it still didn't seem right, and we found out he had a mitochondrial disorder. So he was probably home with us a month, and then we ended up having to go to Toronto Sick Kids Hospital, where we learned that this was what he had, and there was not a whole lot we could do for him. So he passed away at about the age of 3.5 months. So during that time afterwards, I was really struggling with a lot of heavy periods and things like that, and I was still really sick. my main concern was if we ever had another child, would this happen? And they told us that the likelihood that it could happen would be 1 in 4. So it was a big decision for us to make to try to have another child, but we took every precaution that was necessary. And I did get pregnant again on my second son, Ben, who is perfect. He's 11 years old, he's home, and he's great. However, on Ben, I had a great pregnancy and a great delivery, and I was home, and about a week later I hemorrhaged. And this is when I met Dr. Scully and her team, and they were fabulous, and I found out that I was a hemophiliac. So I had von Willebrand's, which is a mild form of hemophilia for myself, but I also have what's called fibrinogen anemia, which causes a lot of problems for me. So after I had Ben, I regularly started going to see Dr. Scully, and I regularly started having, as you get older, you have more problems, and I started having monthly periods where I was hemorrhaging out of control, and I had to have a hysterectomy. But during this time, to try to make myself better, one of the things Dr. Scully checked us, she said, you just look so tired. Obviously, you would be draining was my ferritin levels, which were what she called in my boots. I can't remember what my level was. I think it was 2 or 4, but I remember being very sick. So we found a doctor that would do my hysterectomy, Dr. Cook. She was fabulous. She actually went to high school with me. We decided to go ahead and do it about 3 months afterwards, but between that, we had to try to get myself healthier. And one of the things that Dr. Scully discovered was giving me ferritin by IV. Well, I can tell you, I've had iron injections and I've had iron pills given to me before, but when I got that ferritin by IV, I felt like putting on the Iron Man costume and running around. Like, I can't describe to you what it done for me. So after that, I was able to go through the surgery, and I've continued to have iron by IV if I still have like certain types of bleeds. I suffer from a lot of bruising. It depends on how my levels are. Sometimes I can get really run down, or I don't take care of myself well, and I'll end up having a bleed probably in my arm or in my leg or whatever, which then drives my levels down. And what helps is the ferritin by IV. My body just wouldn't absorb it by pills or injections, but the ferritin I never knew was an option until Dr. Scully and her team offered it, and it did really help. Just going forward now, since I've been able to get my levels back up and exercising and diet, I don't need to take any medication. The only times I do need to take medication now is if I, have a trip or fall, or if my levels do drop. Sometimes, hey, you kind of want to take a break from your regime and you kind of want to relax a little bit, and sometimes when I do that, my levels do get down, or I get too busy. I let life get too busy. But for the most part, that's all I can really say about the ferritin, is that it really does add an opportunity for other patients and other people, if they knew that that option was out there, how it changed for me. Does anybody have any questions or anything about that? No? Thank you. Good.
I'm just trying to see now what the presentation will be. Or is it down there? Yes. Okay.
So Kelley, she graduated Memorial with Bachelor of Science in 1992. She completed a dietetic enrichment program at the General Hospital in 1993 to become a registered dietitian. She got a Master's of Science degree in Community Medicine in 2000. And she's been working at the former Healthcare Corporation and current Eastern Health as a dietitian since 1995. She started her current position in June 2007 as the clinical leader dietitian for the HOPE program. For those who are not sure what the HOPE program is, the HOPE program is the provincial eating disorder program located at Majors Pass, so very important part of our health. So
Okay,
I'll pass it on to you, Kelley.
Okay. Where's the hourglass at? Okay, so title of my thing today is Ways of Enhancing Dietary Iron, basically for high-risk individuals. So just going to review the iron requirements for various population groups, look at the different types of iron that we can have in our food and the content in specific food choices. We'll review the iron enhancers and the iron inhibitors that we could do to help improve the amount of iron that your body is absorbing in the diet. So basically, this is really just a screening tool that we use to really determine if people are at high risk of having an iron deficiency. And basically, if you answer yes to 2 or more of these questions, you would certainly probably have a problem with not getting enough dietary iron. So working with the eating disorder population, many of our clients actually even answer yes to a lot of these things. So first are you female, and obviously females would have higher iron requirements. Do you avoid red meat? And many people do avoid red meat. Many people are moving towards vegetarian diets and things like that. Do you often skip meals? And many people are in a busy lifestyle and skipping meals and into that routine, basically. Are you trying to lose weight by eating less? So again, there's a lot of yo-yo dieters. Like there are a lot of people that are not eating healthy based on Canada's food guide. Do you usually drink tea or coffee with your meals? And I know as a Newfoundlander, there's a lot of people that love their cup of tea with their meal, every meal or whatever, or their tea or their coffee. And the other question is, do you have heavy menstrual periods? And again, some population groups would certainly struggle with that from being female. So how much iron do we really need? So basically, Health Canada has worked with developing dietary reference intakes, and is basically developed by the Food and Nutrition Board of the Institute of Medicine, really just to guide the general public of how much dietary iron we would need, or supplementation of iron, basically. So some of the terminology that is used, RDA is the recommended daily allowances of iron, and that's basically the intake sufficient to meet the nutritional requirements of nearly 98 to 97% of the general population. Okay, EAR is the estimated average requirement, and this is the median daily intake value estimated to meet the requirements of 50% of the healthy population. And the UL is the tolerable upper level, and that's really the highest average daily intake that would be needed, that would pose no risk of medical complications or anything like that. So if your intake, for example, of iron is above that UL, that could certainly increase your risk of adverse effects in that. So this is just a general table that you would see for dietary reference intakes, and obviously we've got iron, but magnesium and other micronutrients. So with regards to iron, the simpler version of this would be basically the various age groups and the amount of iron, the recommended daily allowance that's needed. So for most, obviously females, even adolescents, women, their iron requirements would be really high, and obviously during pregnancy it would be really, really high. Okay. The upper level, tolerable level, the maximum amount would really be on the other side, basically. So anyone having a dietary intake or taking supplements above 40 or 45 milligrams per day would certainly be, it wouldn't be recommended because of some adverse effects of the iron toxicity or whatever. Okay. These values are basically for females, like for females under the age of 14, they wouldn't be menstruating, and for females above 51, they would be postmenopausal, so they wouldn't be menstruating. For vegetarians is a different picture. Vegetarians are obviously they need more iron, basically. So if you're following a vegetarian diet, vegetarians need almost up to two times more the amount of dietary iron than most other people of the general population. And just to give you an example, so the RDA for females 19 to 50 years old is generally 18, but if a person is vegetarian, their requirements is certainly moved up to 32.4. Same thing would be for males, for example, 19 years of age, 8, and multiplying that by 1.8, it would be 14.4. The two types of dietary iron, there are two types. It's the heme iron and the non-heme iron. With the heme iron usually comes from the hemoglobin, thus it's only found in animal products. And the non-heme iron comes from plant foods and other iron-fortified foods. So with the heme iron, obviously it's just animal-based. So from your beef to your chicken to your fish to your poultry, things like that. And this is really just a table that, like looking at the iron content in different foods, particularly animal products. So liver, we all know that liver is very high in iron. Even like the piece 2.5 ounces or the size of a deck of playing cards, that would give you even 13.4 milligrams of iron. So it would even almost meet the daily requirements of a female, basically. Okay, chicken, for example, the white meat would be really low in iron. However, the darker the meat, like from the thigh or the chicken leg, it would be certainly higher in iron. So there are certain ranges, basically, for that. Okay. Non-heme iron, obviously, is found in many fortified foods, like our breakfast cereals and our grains and things like that. Lentils, nuts, seeds, dried fruits, eggs, dark green leafy vegetables, and even in molasses, would have some of the non-heme iron. So with the some examples of the non-heme iron, obviously these will be just, again, like the spinach would be a half of a cup of cooked, would give you like 2 to 3.4. So again, even like some of the breakfast cereals, like the cream of wheat or the roll oats or whatever, there is fortification. So the amount of iron, it is non-heme iron, but it is certainly, it would have, these would be some good choices to have. Okay, and these are some other examples. So even from oysters, I don't know if many people like oysters, same thing like liver, but they would be certainly high. Meat alternatives would be, again, the same thing, like the soybeans, the tofu, lentils, things like that. So with iron absorption, obviously the heme iron is more bioavailable, so that means more absorption, your body's going to get more. Some studies say that the absorption can vary up to 10%. If you have normal iron status, and even up to 35% if you're iron deficient. Other references even report 20 to 30% of the heme iron being absorbed. On the other side, the non-heme iron, the bioavailability is not as good. The absorption can vary up to 2 to 3% and up to 8% with enhancers, and I'll go through some of the enhancers. Other studies even show 1 to 10% of the non-heme iron being absorbed. So I just gave a little example, like a chicken thigh would have like 2.5 ounces of chicken thigh, the dark chicken would have 2 milligrams of iron, and oat bran cereal would have 2 milligrams of iron, basically, but the iron is different. So doing the mathematics, the chicken thigh, obviously your body's actually getting around 0.4 to 0.6 milligrams. However, with the oat bran cereal, it's 0.2 to 0.2 milligrams. So again, it really just shows the importance of, the heme iron. So some of the enhancers, the most important enhancer is the vitamin C or ascorbic acid. And basically vitamin C, you need the acid to help convert the ferric to the ferrous form for the absorption. So is just really just making a point of having some vitamin C rich foods with a particular meal, of having non-heme iron foods. So like your strawberries, your orange juice, your peppers, citrus fruits, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, things like that. Even with the non-heme iron, heme iron in itself will actually even increase the absorption of non-heme iron too. So again, if you are having beans, basically that's the non-heme iron, but having some lean ground beef with it will certainly increase even more of the absorption. So the heme iron obviously enhances the absorption by, stimulating more of the gastric acids in the stomach. Some absorption inhibitors would be the polyphenols, particularly the tannins in tea, coffee, and wine. And these are the most important ones that I guess the dietitian would really focus on rather than some of the others. But the tannins in tea, coffee, and wine can certainly inhibit the absorption of iron. So some of the research is saying black tea is more inhibiting than the herbal teas. The more concentrated the tea, obviously the more inhibiting it would be for the iron. So I know there's a lot of elderly ladies living alone, and they love their dark cup of Tetley tea, and the stronger the better, right? Yeah, so again, that would certainly inhibit the amount of iron, obviously, that they're having, if they're having their cup of tea with their meal, basically. Green tea extract supplements certainly would inhibit the absorption of non-heme iron too. There is literature supporting that oxalic acid, the phytates, and calcium can certainly inhibit the absorption of iron. However, research shows that the iron absorption when having normal amounts of, for example, milk and milk products would not really have a major impact of inhibiting the amount of iron. So the main thing is really the teas, the coffees, the wine, the tannins. We don't really recommend you to not have whole grain cereals and things like that, because some of those whole grain products are fortified with iron. Okay, same thing with the calcium. Again, it's really just following Candace's food guide. One thing we would recommend is if you are taking a calcium supplement, not to be taking it the same as if you're taking an iron supplement, because again, that would certainly have some impact on the absorption or not. So this is just a sample day's menu of even just trying to increase the amount of iron in your diet. Having cereal with strawberries, so the non-heme iron in the cereal, having something vitamin C rich like strawberries would increase the amount, the absorption of the non-heme iron in the cereal. Same thing with the lunch, okay, with regards to the whole grain bread and the tuna fish, even having the tuna fish with the whole grain bread would certainly increase the absorption of even the non-heme iron. Dinner, beef chili with beans, canned tomatoes, and lean ground beef. So basically, the beans would have the non-heme iron, the canned tomatoes would have the vitamin C, which would enhance the absorption, and the heme iron from the lean ground beef would even enhance the absorption even more. So having like homemade chili would be a very high source of iron. Same thing as snack, having a bran muffin, which would have the non-heme iron, but having a glass of juice with it would have the vitamin C. So just in summary, from the dietitian point of view, eating a wide variety of food from Canada's food guide to meet your RDAs, include heme and non-heme iron sources. Try to avoid consumption of some of the inhibitors. So even we encourage people to have their cup of tea or coffee even 1 or 2 hours after their meal. That would certainly help. Combine your foods in your foods high in non-heme iron food choices with vitamin C rich foods, and obviously supplement if there is a deficiency. And again, we would certainly, obviously, supplementation is very important. And from our experience, where I'm working with the eating disorder population, many people are having iron deficiency, and we've had even in recent years, so having some of these people having IV iron infusions, which really, really helps. Yeah. Okay, any questions? Or I do have some pamphlets here that if anyone would like to have a copy after the session or whatever, you're certainly welcome to have them with regards to iron deficiency. Yes?
I noted that when you were talking about the source of iron, the enhancers and the inhibitors, that spinach and berries came up on both.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's true, spinach it is high in iron, but it does have the phytates that can inhibit the amount of iron.
So you mentioned, because I eat a lot of regular, like just raw spinach, but I don't eat a lot of cooked spinach. Is it cooking it a better way than?
No. You'd have to eat an awful lot of it. I should have done an example of the spinach versus heme iron. You would have to eat a lot of spinach to really get much iron, basically. Because when you boil the spinach, like you might have to have like 6 cups of spinach to even get a half a cup of, the boiled stuff, right? Yeah. So spinach is not a very good, I guess even a vegetable to help with, iron, basically. Yeah, increasing your iron needs, yeah.
And the berries as well?
Same, well, with the berries, again, I would recommend not to be eating those. And the research is controversial with the phytates, actually, with regards to having individual meals or even just looking at the overall intake for like a full month or whatever. So I would